Welcome back for another lesson on sort of an introduction to 3D modeling in Maya. This lesson we're going to talk about some more advanced save options. We're going to talk about selection options. We're going to talk about the edit mesh menu. We're going to talk about extruding, beveling, chamfering, and the bridge tool. Um, and then I think part two of this lesson we'll get more into smooth preview, the smooth tool, and maybe some of the sculpting tools. So to start off, I'm going to go ahead and just put a cube in my scene. I've got a new scene here. I'm going to do cube. One of the things I wanted to show you is that you can, aside from save and save as, you also have this increment and save option, which is actually Command Option S. So where Command Shift S is a save as, Command Option S does this increment and save thing, where each time I save it, it's going to save another version of it. Now I have to change something. I have to kind of like, rotate the object a little bit or do whatever I'm going to do to it. And then Command Option S, hit continue. And if you look, I'm going to open up where I have this saved. I have this in this Maya archive file. You'll see it's saved an increment version of the original file. So there's the original, and then version 1, version 2, and version 3. I've saved a few versions of this so far. And this is just really best practices when you're working in a piece of software as complicated as Maya, particularly if you're on a computer that maybe doesn't meet all the system requirements that Maya needs. This will help you make sure that if your software crashes, you have backups and you have constant backups as you go. So I really love that Command Option S or Control Option S if you're on a PC. So again, get that into your muscle memory and save. Now another lesson that I've learned recently is Maya does have an autosave feature. If you go to Windows and you go down to, oh boy, if I can find it, Settings and Preferences, and then Preferences. And then I go to my Settings category here, and then Files and Projects. You'll see about halfway down here in the middle, there's an option to autosave. And you can enable this, and you can even set the interval at how often it will save. So right now I could turn this off and have every 10 minutes it's going to save. I can name a specific folder or wherever my current project is saved, etc. So I could say a named folder, and then I could go on my computer here and go to that same space, My Book, and the Maya archive, and hit open and save. And now it's going to autosave every 10 minutes a version to that. Now there is a little caveat to that. I put a link on your Canvas site here. Just if you're not viewing this through the Canvas site for this class, I'm going to pull this little screen over here because I think Autodesk does a better job of explaining it. There's an important note here. If you open an autosave file and then continue to work on it, it will not be autosaved. To continue working on an autosave file and have it subject to autosaving, you have to rename it and save the file in a location other than where the original autosave files are found. So keep that in mind. If you open up one of those autosaved versions, you're going to have to rename it and put it in a new place to keep working on it. So just keep that in mind. It's kind of a strange little thing. I would assume it would just pick up and save those settings, but just keep that in mind. And this is the knowledge base page talking about autosaving in Maya. But a nice feature if you like autosaving. All right, so we're going to keep moving here. Something I like to bring up is that every time we're going to look at a lot of tools today, but I like to help people understand, one of the first places we're going to look is under the edit mesh. And every tool in Maya, under any menus that you open up, if you see a little box like this to the right of it, so say I am going to do extruding and I open up this little box, you're going to get options just for that particular feature. So I'm going to do this a lot in today's lesson. I just wanted to call that out. Any menus that you're pulling up from the main menu up here, if there's a little toggle, there's always more settings in there. So keep that in mind. Even up here under File and Save, you'll see all of these like Save As or Save Scene. They all have little toggles in there with lots of extra settings in there. So as you're exploring Maya, make sure you open those up because there's a lot of great settings there. Alright, so we're going to now start talking about different selection options inside of Maya. Before we get started, I'd just like to make sure you have your actual tool settings available to see. So up here in the top right, you'll notice there's a little icon here that looks like a hammer with 3 dots and 3 lines next to it. If you click on that, it's going to pop up in a your pop-up window your first time. I like to drag it over with my attribute and channel box and everything. That way I have all those options ready for me, and I can kind of activate them when I need to. So by default, you're going to have, if you choose your selection tool, all of these things are going to be on: camera, drag, marquee or drag based selection. And let's see what that means. Okay, so first of all, if I have marquee turned on, I can drag a little marquee box and select. So I went to faces there, and which is a really nice feature. I can click off there. I activated my faces. I right clicked and activated faces. I could sit here and hold and click on each one and hold down shift and add them. You see the plus sign with shift, right? But a faster way to do that is if you use marquee based selection, is I can click and drag, and then I can select a whole group of them, right? Or I can go like this. And this works not just for faces, it works for edges and for vertexes as well. Now if I go to drag instead, I can kind of click and drag and get all the ones that I want. So two really nice different ways, whether you would like the box or you like to just be able to drag what you want selection wise as you move through them. That's kind of a nice feature too. Different people like different things. It depends on kind of like, will your marquee grab everything you need, or is it grabbing too much? Then maybe you want to switch over to drag. So again, marquee works pretty cool. Again, I can kind of select multiples and hold down shift and add more to that as we go. Sometimes it doesn't work as well with like round selections because shift will unselect other things as well. So like if I have something and I hold down shift, you'll see it switches to negative, it'll deselect it, right? So again, sometimes the drag is just like an easier way to get everything you want to select in a tighter space, or sometimes with like rounded objects. But remember, you got to keep clicking and dragging to get everything. If you end up clicking again, you can deselect things as well as adding new things to it. So I can click here, and then if I hold it again, see how it deselects those ones? I have to hold down shift and then add those. But if I happen to go over that one, I can go negative and I could actually remove ones as well. So two really nice ways to kind of select objects, and again, that's all just with your selection tool. That's Q for the shortcut on that. Now I also like to show people how to basically be able to select through an object. This gets really important as you're trying to kind of like bring symmetry to certain objects, and that's where camera based selection goes. Like right now your selection is based on which side of the object you're viewing with your virtual camera in 3D space. But if I turn these off, watch what happens. So now I'm in drag again. Watch, I'm going to go ahead and click around here. I'm doing this in the top view. Now look what happens when I pivot. Oh, I guess that didn't actually work. Oh, Maya's being kind of funny and buggy with me today here. Let's go ahead and turn these back on again. Go to marquee, turn off camera based selection. Let's try that there. Now we got it. So for some reason drag, it doesn't like them both being off at the same time. Some kind of bug issue going on there. But now when I did that drag and select key and I turned off camera based selection on the marquee, there we go, and I drag it, you'll notice it gets both the top and the bottom. It actually like selects all the way through the object. That can be really, really helpful, particularly if I wanted to, manipulate both sides of the object, if I wanted to kind of expand and have that happen to both kind of in a symmetrical format. That's a really nice way to be able to do it and have that perfect symmetry from side to side. Now watch out when you do that though in the perspective view, because you're not always going to get perfect symmetry. Like, I could drag here, but if I go to the other side, you'll notice I didn't exactly get those exact ones because I was really at a slight angle with my camera, so it got a lot more than what I was bargaining for. But if I came to say my front view and I do it, this is a very symmetry based camera, then I'm going to get perfect on the other side of that, right? It's going to go right through it. So keep that in mind when you are doing these camera based selections, okay? Now let's try doing it with the drag and see if that bug still persists. So I'm going to turn camera back on marquee, turn it off on drag based selection, and let's see what happens. Oh, let's switch to drag actually. There we go. Let's see there, and let's go. Yeah, that's interesting. So the camera-based selection is not working right now with the drag option, and I don't know why that is, other than, a bug in Maya, or maybe I haven't learned something new there. It's possible there's might be some new feature. If I turn that one off there, let's see if it makes any difference. Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm not sure why the drag features camera-based selection. You can't turn that off, but it works in Marquee. So there we go. So really just wanted to make sure you had those different selection tool options available to you. All right. So one of the other things we're going to talk about is I mentioned this in a past lesson, but when you're selecting objects, oh, let me go back and turn off camera-based selection, by the way. I'm going to go back to Marquee and turn those back on. There we go. We should be back in good shape. So I love holding Shift down. Obviously, I can add a selection to that. But you can also click on one face there and then hold Shift and double click, and this does a whole ring around a symmetrical object like that. Now if your object has gotten crazy, that doesn't work out so well, but there you go. Now I've got this really interesting form that's starting to build. Not only can I do that with faces, I can do that with edges. So I can choose, this time I'll do a vertical one, and I can go pretty much, did it go all the way, or at least went up to that center point. It didn't have a perfect one. Sometimes on the verticals it only does like 180 instead of 360 degrees. But if I go this way, it should go all the way around. Yeah, that'll go all the way around for me. And you can do the same thing in vertexes. So click on one, and then it'll give all those vertexes around. Now again, I can do this vertically. Click on one, and then it'll give me the vertical at least up to that center point. For some reason it doesn't go all the way around, but I could always then, I think, nope, I'd have to do another selection and get them that way. I'm not sure. That might work. There we go. Then I can get them both all the way around vertically like that if I wanted to do something with expanding those outward in sort of a vertical fin that goes around the whole object. So yeah, really neat ways to make these beautiful symmetrical kind of selections all the way around. It works in edge, it works in face, and it works in vertexes. It's kind of a vertices loop or a face loop or an edge loop is what you can call that. All right, so yeah, that's really what I wanted to show you on selection tools for right now. So we'll go ahead and stop there, and please check out the next lesson that I've got. Thanks.